what's also interesting is, we have to look at the person, at the situation. One of the things I think is really important to consideration is, do we have people who have physiological issues? Do we have people that are true biomechanical issues? So obviously, like the femoral acetabulum impingement, that bony block at the hip, that would be a biomechanical issue, right? Some kind of aberrant movement over the course of time led to them laying down extra bone. Likewise, if we had someone who throws a baseball right-handed their entire career, we're going to see some adaptations there that are specific to that level of asymmetry. So those are certainly considerations. But I think taking it a step further, we also have to realize that sometimes there's physiological components, right? We know that high stress individuals tend to have a lot of extra tone in their upper traps and their scalenes and their SCM. We know that people, that kind of have that same kind of high strung personalities. Their active straight leg raises just aren't really that good. They'll do anything they can to kind of keep that sympathetic nervous system wired, right? This is where I think PRI does a really good job of talking about how positionally what we do from a biomechanics standpoint can actually potentially really interact us on a physiological level. They talk about how an extension pattern tends to be very sympathetic, stressful, whereas a little more flexion bias pattern can probably get us a little bit more parasympathetic, a little bit more toned down. And this is one reason why you might see someone who comes in with a crazy military posture. They've got their scaps really tugged together, their low back is arched like crazy, and their humerus is really sitting back in a heavily extended position because their lats are firing on all cylinders. And they just carry a ton of extra tone, and you put them in a more flexion bias position, kind of like an all fours belly lift, which we'll show you in a little bit. You get them to fully exhale, and all of a sudden you see these dramatic improvements in range of motion, into shoulder flexion, and straight leg raise improves, and all these different things. And you haven't fundamentally stretched anything. All you've done is you've added some good stiffness elsewhere, and it can really be game changing for certain people. And what's interesting about this is I think that it seems very revolutionary to the fitness, strength conditioning, and even in the rehab communities where a lot of the yoga folks have known about this for thousands of years. They understood what breathing could do for us and how various positions could really change things. And that's why when someone asks me, what do you think of yoga? It's a really hard question to answer because it's, who is teaching it, what's their training, what's their level of experience with it, and it's virtually impossible to adopt an entire discipline, because there are certain things that are good for some people and not for others. A lot of the extension bias stuff might be really, really problematic for that military posture case we discussed before, whereas getting into a more of a flexion biased approach could be life-changing in a positive way for those individuals. So you always want to align yourself not just with disciplines, but with good people who understand how to appropriately apply them to each individual circumstance.